Welcome to episode 431 of the DFO Rundown, as always brought to you by Bet365. It's never ordinary. At Bet365, get in the game, use the promo code NATION, that's nation, and get in on all the action. NFL playoffs are confirmed. The NHL, man, from game to game, it is an absolutely unpredictable season. And it just continues. We're over the halfway point of the season now. And honestly, we're gonna do a segment later on in the pod about who are they. And you know what, God, we'll probably embarrass ourselves because I'm not sure, Jeff Marek, what a lot of these teams are, good or bad right now. But it is it's pretty wild. It is pretty wild.
It's a wild time. It's been a wild year. It's been a who are you year. Just when you think you have a handle on what team X, it's like trying to grab a handful of water. I think it's safe to say, Jason, the only team that we know for sure who they are the Colorado Avalanche. After that, every team is at times look good, and a lot of teams have looked bad, specifically at the bottom end of the Western Conference. But it's been a bizarre year, and in my head, I'm kind of conflicted whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. The fact that everybody kind of seems more similar than different, I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing, but it makes every game interesting. So I will concede that point.
Yeah, there hasn't been a ton of consistency from teams to team. You mentioned like Colorado's obviously on a different planet right now than a lot of the other NHL teams. But like you look at the Dallas Stars, looked like they were rolling. Now the Stars can't win games, and
I know.
So it's impacted everybody. The Carolina Hurricanes have given up 32 goals in their last 7 games. Carolina, like I know that that Kochekov's out, and you know what, the Boozy balloon has seemed to have popped. Boozy balloon, excuse me. But it's rare to see them giving up that many goals. And I wonder, you know what, they got Jacob Slavin back for 3 games, and then he's been out since. And it's almost like when he returned, they're like, okay, you know what, we made it through it without him, and we did really well. And then since he's gone back out the second time, now obviously Seth Jarvis is also hurt. And, anytime you take out some good guys, eventually maybe it catches up to you. Kochekov's gone. But, man, their last 7 games for a Carolina team, like I can't recall a 2-week stretch where Carolina has looked this porous defensively.
No, it's unique. I kind of chalk things like this up because, again, like we've seen this long runway of Carolina not looking like this. And I just chalk this up to it's a long season and they're due for a rut. Really, like this is not. Right. I don't think that this is anywhere close to the real Hurricanes or now. This is a brand new version of the Canes we have to get used to. Through all of it, I kind of have that feeling that, you know what, it's going to be fine. They're going to get back to being the Carolina Hurricanes eventually. Health is always a great equalizer here. You know what it's kind of like? Remember last year when we would watch Winnipeg Jets games and they would be down like 2 goals in the third period? And it was just like, it doesn't matter. They're going to come back and win. And they would come back and win. Like this happened all the time with the Winnipeg Jets last year. It was like you had that kind of confidence in them. This year for the Winnipeg Jets could not be more opposite. You want to talk about like a team that has fallen from the mightiest of heights, like from President's Trophy to last in the NHL. Like we're going back to the 40s with the Rangers to find a team that's done that. And there weren't, I assure you, 32 teams in the NHL back when the Rangers pulled off this rare stunt. I don't know. Well, I think we all have sort of theories of why this has happened with the Winnipeg Jets. But when you talk about teams that look remarkably different, there is not a team in the NHL that looks more different than they did last year from a negative point of view than the Winnipeg Jets. It's bad, and it's going to be bad in the future too, I suspect.
They have half as many points as Colorado. Now, Colorado's been out of this world. Now, Colorado did lose against Florida on Sunday in regulation. Like, oh my God! Like, you know what? Yeah. Maybe there's concern because think about it. In 39 games, they only lost in regulation twice, but now in Game 40 they lost once. I'm kidding, of course. It's ridiculous that the Avs have only had 3 regulation losses in 40 games. It's like, you know, like talk about almost being impossible to match in your second half of the season to say, oh, we're going to play 40 more games and only lose 3 times in regulation. there is the Landeskog injury to something, hopefully nothing too serious. But yeah, going back to the Jets, I don't really know how to, I don't love their blue line. Nope. They got Scheifele and Connor scoring. They don't have a lot of other guys after that scoring. And their defense isn't great, or they're not playing as well as they did as a unit last year. And it just seems like in Winnipeg, it's like everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong at the same time.
Yeah, it is. And, they're choosing not to spread things around as far as the scoring goes. The Jonathan Taves experiment outside of faceoffs, where he's still amongst the elite in the NHL, has not worked out. Like many teams around the NHL, they're still looking for a second line center. That is still target number one. I agree with you on the blue line. Like we looked at this, and I think Jason, you and I talked about this a couple of different times during the playoffs last year. They're not big enough. And I know that really matters in the playoffs. Like, how big is your back end? Like, it's a real big deal. But I always look at Winnipeg's blue line and say, I just don't. I mean, sure, Logan Stanley's a giant, but I just don't look at them and say, like, that's a big enough back end. The other thing that scares me for the future here for the Winnipeg Jets, well, a couple of things. One, if you're going to have the year that goes where the train goes off the tracks, and you're like, screw it, we're going to get a high lottery pick. If you're looking for a franchise-changing player, as of right now, and kids develop at different times, so you don't know, but as of right now, there's no one in the draft that's walking in and changing your franchise. Gavin McKenna is not doing that. Nobody is doing that from this year's draft. Like, there are some really good players and some high-end players, specifically at the high end of this draft. There are players that are starting to make some noise in the junior and get you to pay more attention to them, but no one's walking in and changing your franchise. And the other thing, as we just add logs to the fire here, Jason, you know what I'm scared about with Winnipeg? I don't think they can keep up with the spending that's going to happen in the NHL as the cap increases. Starting this offseason.
That's a legit concern, for sure.
Like, that is a major concern for this organization. And if your business model for a hockey team is we're always going to be good and we're always going to make the playoffs, well, guess what? That's not a sane business model. Like, I'm not sure how you feel about this, Jason. I'm always curious people's thoughts. I feel if you can't be a bad team and suffer losses for 5 years without it seriously negatively impacting your bottom line and the future of your franchise, should you still be an NHL franchise? That's why I'm really scared about this team in the future.
Yeah, their ownership's got so much money. Like, at the end of the day, even, like, I know that, hey, no billionaire likes to lose money, but losing, if they lose 20 mil a year, it really does. It won't impact their life at all. But I know that's not how they think. But you're right. It's a valid concern. I've said that all along. I said, as the cap goes up, I'm not certain that all the teams are going to go up with it in spending across the league. I think that we're going to get to a potential spot here in, 3 or 4 years where we might have a little bit of a have and have nots when it comes to salary cap spending. I won't be surprised by that at all.
When Winnipeg sort of looked over the edge, not too long ago, maybe it was like, hey, we're going to get rid of Connor Hellebuck. We're going to get rid of Mark Scheifele. We all expected trade. Remember, it was like a cozy 5 minutes ago, Jason, we were all expecting Scheifele to get traded. Where is he going? Oh, he's going to Boston. Oh, no, Scheifele's going to go to Philadelphia. Remember, we all thought this was going to happen because Winnipeg was going to commit to a youth movement. And they got to the edge, and Kevin Cheveldayoff looked over it, probably with Mark Chipman right beside him, and said, we can't do this. We can't do this. We still need to be a good team because we still need to fill this building. And all of a sudden, those massive extensions came out for Mark Scheifele and for Connor Hellebuck as well. And now if the NHL is about to take a major financial step, like most teams in the NHL about to take a major financial step, I'm just worried what that's going to mean for that team in that market. Because we've seen when attendance softens, the commissioner showed up a couple of years ago, right, to try to, massage season ticket holders and sponsors, etc. That's when I first went, this is potential danger. Because if you can't withstand being bad for a while, and losing money for a while, not having any playoff revenue, It's tough sledding for your franchise. And and to add even more on this, you're paying American money and you're bringing in Canadian revenue on top of all.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no joke on that.
For a lot of teams too, like there's a lot of arenas. That's funny. I was talking to someone about this today. I know I'm going on and on here. I just want to get it all out. I was talking to someone this morning who said, one of the things you guys never talk about is there are a lot of teams, of course, own their own arenas. But for a lot of teams, the teams that have like blank nights, that affects the bottom line. Like that opportunity cost is gone, right? Like you look at like Toronto or Detroit or like major center Montreal, like all these like big, New York is the obvious one. Like they're full every night. That's not necessarily true of all the rinks. He said that's something that you guys never talk about, but owners talk about. Like, you know what? Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah, but if your business model is based on you need to make money from other streams to support it, well, then we got to question if whether or not your business model is feasible long term. That's just the reality of it, right? If you have to rob Peter to pay Paul all the time, that's not a great business model long term. So we'll see. Now, speaking of the Jets, let's get to it. There's 2 suspensions, 2 kind of two. Sure. People call them sucker punches or not. Let's see. We got the video of. Let's do the Stanley one first. He got a game. So did Beecher. Okay. But let's show the Stanley one here with Tkachuk.
Okay.
All right. They're looking. Tkachuk tries to lift him over, pushes away. Now, Tkachuk there isn't even looking to fight in that instance, right? But he's pretty annoyed. He took a straight shot.
Like we've said, again, first of all, is the 1 game suspension deserved? Yeah. Said that if you're someone, because first of all, Brady Tkachuk is not new in the NHL. Everybody knows Brady Tkachuk. Everybody knows Brady Tkachuk is a tough hockey player. Everybody knows that in any given moment, Brady Tkachuk will drop the gloves and fight. And I think Logan Stanley at that moment was like, you know what? I'm gonna hit first, right? If I'm gonna fight Brady Tkachuk, I'm going to hit first. Have you ever heard the saying, Jason? It's an old fighting saying.
Oh yeah.
I would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I think you're Logan Stanley. You think to yourself, you know what? I think Brady Tkachuk's warming up for one here. I know who I'm doing this with. I'm not like rubbing out here with Drake Batherson. This is Brady Tkachuk. We might just go. I'm going to get the first punch in. Again, deserve the suspension, but I think I know what Logan Stanley is thinking there. I don't think he's going in there thinking, I'm going to get a cheap shot in on Brady Tkachuk. I think Logan Stanley's thinking, you know what? We might just be squaring up here. I want to make sure I get the first one in.
Yeah, what do you think? First, ask questions later sometimes is another one that people will say. So it's definitely worthy of it. If you look at Chuck's not even looking at him at the time, like he's looking away sideways and, opens up his face and, hey, takes one right in the kisser. And so if you're going to get a game suspension, I guess you make it worthwhile. And Stanley made it worthwhile.
Yeah. Have you not seen, I've seen it with Brady. I've seen it with Matthew as well, where they do that, turn their head away and then throw a quick one out there. We've seen that before. First of all, I have so much respect for the Tkachuks for a lot of reasons. And when it comes to things surrounding violence and fighting, they're masters. Like they're the masters of deception and luring you in and making you think a fight is over when it's really not. Like these guys don't do anything frivolously. I really believe that. I know sometimes you may feel that they're reckless. I think everything is deliberate and everything is calculated, and they know exactly what they're doing at every single moment on the ice, around the net, and in every single altercation. That's why I looked at this one. If I'm Logan Stanley, I'm like, I'm not going to give Brady Tkachuk the benefit of the doubt here. If I think we're going to fight, we're going to fight, and I'm going to get the first shot in. That's what
I will say this. I will be stunned the next time they play it that they don't fight because Brady is not one.
Oh, yeah.
He'll back it up. That like sometimes you see, there's going to be some carryover in the next game. There rarely is. This is one where I'm like, pretty sure I'll be looking at the schedule to see where an Ottawa and Winnipeg plays next and be like, take notes. That's a game I want to watch for sure.
If you
If you
see, just really quick, if you see Scott Arniel, if he's still the coach, line Logan Stanley up at a forward position on the opening draw. That'll be your first clue.
Now, the other one was in the Nashville-Calgary game that got rather spirited. And suddenly the Nashville Predators, like, they're doing their best Undertaker impersonation right now. They're sitting right up. They're in the coffin. Everyone's like, oh, my God, we were done.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that's who the Preds are right now, man. Steven Stamkos woken up. But you look at, here's Beecher, and he gets a McCarron, right? And then he locks in.
Yeah.
And you wait. And he gets a pretty good one here. Boom.
Yeah. Okay. I got a couple things.
What do you make of that one?
Do you want to go first on this one? Because I got a couple of things on this one.
Oh,
why don't you go first on this one?
It's been over for quite a while, right? It's over for quite a while here. It's all tapped. No one's expecting it here, and boom. To me, that one's actually worse than the Stanley one, in my opinion. You got the linesman all there. Everybody knows it's over. I think that one's worse.
So here's how I look at it. There's the Logan Stanley punch. No one's being grabbed. If you have a look, so Travis Garolets, linesman number 67, is grabbing McCarron. He's got McCarron locked in. Okay, McCarron can't move. Now, Joe Mahan, former Portland Winterhawk from the Western Hockey League, is the other official. He kind of gets trapped a little bit, but he should try harder to get in front of Beecher or grab Beecher. You know what the worst thing in a fight is? One linesman grabs one guy.
Yes.
Now, I'm not absolving John Beecher. John Beecher saw McCarron totally vulnerable. He's being held by the linesman, and he still fires a shot. I am not absolving John Beecher here whatsoever. All I'm saying is the linesman here, even though he kind of got boxed a little bit, needs to do, and this is probably going to be a part of a report by Stephen Walcom, I would imagine. I think 89 needs to get in there, needs to get between two, or needs to grab John Beecher so it's equal. Again, not absolving Beecher. I'm just saying, from an official's point of view, this one could have been snuffed out a lot quicker. Sure, he was boxed, but he's got to work harder to get in between them, or to get Beecher. Fair. Right there.
I will. The other thing I will say, I give Beecher credit, man. He stood up and fought Haig in the second period, right? Because Haig's like, hey, once his 10-minute misconduct was over, and Nick Haig is no joke. He is a big, strong human, man. So I'll give Beecher credit there. McCarron's a big dude too, right? But, Nashville right now, they're a team that's, they're as a team, they've scrapped their way literally back into the playoff race in the Western Conference. Not that they were really out of it, but it looked like they were heading more for a lottery pick. And now they're 1 point out of the playoffs, for God's sakes. It's wild. Now, that doesn't mean anything. In 2 weeks, they could be 3-5 points out again, because every team seems to go like a yo-yo up and down. But some guys will make a bad decision, and then they don't ever fess up for it. Because a lot of times when you fess up for it and you say, okay, now we're going to go, it's over. Right? There won't be the carryover to the next game, because Nashville guys you know what? He fought Nick Haig, and it's not like, he fought a middleweight. Nick Haig is a legit big, tough guy, right? 6'5".
He is.
He's tough. He knows how to fight. So, Beecher said, okay, you know what? What I did was wrong. I'll own up to it. And away we go. And so I do respect him on that regard too. And I love that Nashville, hey, right now they're playing like a unified team. And guys stand up for each other. McCarron could have easily stood up for himself, but Haig's no, I got this. And there's a reason why the Nashville Predators, say, hey, their best players are suddenly playing better. Shocking when that happens. You start winning some games. Hello, Toronto, Austin Matthews, and it works. Yeah. So I don't know, what the Preds can do long term in the second half, but the season really, Jeff, the first half at the end of the day, other than Colorado being, a stratosphere above everybody else, everything is wide open. In every other division, in every wild card spot, there's very few teams where you look and say, no chance.
Do you not think, though, that considering it's Michael McCarron, that this maybe isn't over? That
maybe
McCarron
not.
Is still
he might want his pound of flesh.
Something from Beecher. You know what I mean? I agree with you. Good on Haig and Beecher, and he hurt himself in the fight too. We should point out too. John Beecher looked like his left arm
for a while.
Yeah, so I just wonder if McCarron still wants that pound of flesh. You know what I'm glad this happened with Nashville, because I had forgotten something this year. It's an old saying. I'm big on old sayings today. It's an old saying. It's an old management saying. And if I would have been smarter, I would have reminded myself of this when I was probably overreacting about the Predators. And it goes like this. In management, patience is action. Patience is not just ignoring something. Patience is action. This was a really tough sit for Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz heard a lot of things about himself, how he runs a team, how he's still a coach. He's not really a general man. He heard a lot. Now, when you're a player, by the time you get to the NHL, you've heard everything about your game, and I believe you have bulletproof skin. You've heard, I don't care who, you've heard everything about your game and a lot of bad things about your game, and you get tougher because of it. And seeing what Nashville's done, I think to myself, I got to remember that more. Patience is action. How come Barry Trotz isn't doing something? How come they're not sending Stamkos? How come they haven't traded Saros? Marek, patience is action. And we're seeing it now. But we live in this universe. I know I do now. And I got to always catch myself of reminding myself that it is an 82 game season, even though it feels like 82 one game seasons that every single fan base goes through. Patience is action. That's the lesson so far from Barry Trotz, I think, anyhow.
Well, it can be for sure. It also helps in a season where very few teams seem to get any sort of traction, right? Like there's very few teams, right, that are having traction here. Like you look at how tight the playoff races are. Like exclude Colorado because they're 11 points up on Dallas and Mini, but Dallas and Mini are suddenly now tied in points for second place, which would be a home ice advantage battle. And those three teams seem to be almost locked into their positions. Colorado will finish first. Yep. Dallas and Minnesota are going to be second and third. And it's going to be a matter of who they play where they play, at home or on the road to start the first round. But other than that, you look at the Atlantic. Now Tampa Bay's rolling, but they're only 1 point ahead of Montreal and Detroit. Carolina has a 1 point lead on the Islanders, 2 points up on the surprising Flyers. And then you got the Penguins, who won again, came back from a 4-1 deficit today to beat Columbus, who can't hold a lead to save their life. And now Pittsburgh and Washington have 49 and 48 points. And then the Panthers, who beat Colorado today in regulation. The Buffalo Sabres, recent winner of 10 in a row. Right now, New Jersey could win tonight, and then they'd be up to 48 points, right? Like it is, it's wild. And then you go in the West, Seattle, 43, LA, 43, San Jose, 43, Nashville, St. Louis, 42, Utah, 41. The Calgary Flames, who just won't get extinguished right now at all. They just keep burning. And it's wild, man. Like it's unlike any season I've ever covered in 20 plus years to look and say there's this many teams that are this close. Not like, oh, there's 6 points out. No, we're talking 2, 1, 3 points out. That's it, with games in hand. Like it's wild. And you could go from seventh in a division to second in 1 week.
You're a lot closer to it, obviously, than I am. So I want to ask you about the Pacific. What do you make of every team with a negative goal differential in the division? Do you put any stock in that? Like, does that seem
Right now, there's no teams that are playing good or have played good to this point of the season. Edmonton's had a run in December, but now they look like they've fallen off again. You know, the Vegas Golden Knights had a good stretch at start, but they've been pretty average here. They won 3 of their last 10. Anaheim started out like a house on fire, and they've come crashing down to earth. What have they won? 2, I think, in their last 10. The LA Kings have been average all year. Seattle, I thought Seattle was done. And suddenly Seattle's, one of the hottest teams in the NHL is 6-0-1 in their last 7 games, right? Like, honestly, the Pacific has a whole lot of meh right now.
So I started the season out by watching, and we talked about it, a lot of Seattle Kraken games. And then I kind of stopped. And recently I'm back watching Kraken games. And it's not just necessarily about the game itself, but there's a player that I really, really like. Jacob Melanson. I know he's a 4th line player, plays in Ben Myers and Ryan Winterton. But when you want to talk about an old school player that hits for keeps and hits through guys, like every game, there's like one bone cruncher from this kid. I just love it. And I know, 4th line, you're not going to win games on your 4th. This is a really interesting 4th line. It's built like an old school, just pressure, violence, big hits, keep the puck down low in the opposition. It's like this is, and a lot of it is because this Melanson kid. Like, honestly, I don't know how many Seattle games, if at all, you've watched recently, but I love it when this kid's on the ice because, guys like Don Cherry used to always mention this. If you give a player an excuse not to hit, he won't hit. A guy like Melanson will never take that excuse not to hit. He will, and that might just be because he's young. I get it, but it's fun having players like that in the game. And I would imagine he's on his way to becoming a cult hero with Kraken fans. Anyway, I just want to get his name out on the show.
Yeah.
Fun to watch.
He's only played, I think, 10 games, but he has like 41 41 Right. Like
it's incredible.
4 hits a game. And his hits, as you said, Jeff,
5 minutes.
Yeah. But they're big. Like there's hits where okay, like I rubbed the guy out, but then there's a hit where you're like, oh God, I felt that one. And he has had a few big bone crunching where you can tell like that when we say, oh, the reason you hit is because it wears guys down. Well, that happens in the playoffs a lot because it's a lot of by attrition. And sure, there are some heavier hits, but this guy right now has been, and what it does is when you have a guy like that on your team, the guys who don't hit, they love it because it is a skill to be able to hit guys consistently clean is a skill, right? And for him to do it on a team that just like the Seattle Kraken were one of the most nondescript teams in the NHL. Like really, they don't scare anybody offensively. They're not great defensively. They're more of a defensive minded team. But now you have a guy who runs around and not out of position and takes dumb penalties, but he's physical, and that energy it spreads. Guys on the bench love it when they see someone get a big hit. Plus, it elevates you in the game because there's naturally a little bit more animosity.
And I think your point about this team being kind of bland and there's no real identity to latch on to. Like, Matty Benier is a real nice hockey player. Berkeley Catton is going to be a really nice hockey player. Shane Wright, go right down Jordan Eberle. Like, there's like some Chandler Stevenson. Like, there's some like good hockey players here, but no one's got like a big jump off the page personality for what they do on the ice. And when you have some, like, you can do it a couple of ways. You can have like a guy that scores 70 goals with back scratch and slap shots like Alexander Ovechkin. You can have like the toughest guy in the NHL, right? Fights everybody, big, wins and does the title belt celebrations after. Like, there are ways that fans can, stick themselves to a team. And the other is the crusher. Like, what gets a fan up out of their seats? More than, sure, a game-winning goal in overtime. Yeah, but like, you have a guy on your roster that can throw bone-crunching hits, and you know that if you go to a Kraken game, you're going to see him do that. That's awesome. Not every team has that. Not every. And dare we say it's the beginning of some kind of identity? With the Seattle Kraken, Greg?
I'm not going to go that far, but
that far yet. I know.
I'm not going to go there yet, but. They
all right.
And that leads into I want to kind of play a fun game just for fun. So we'll Colorado. Sure. I think we all agree. I know what they are. They're really good, right? There's no debate on that.
Yes.
But so we're going to start in the East, and it's just going to be very quick, right? Yeah. Are they where they are in the standings? Is this who they are, or you're unsure, or no, they will be worse or they will be better? Very short, very simple. We'll go through every team. Tampa Bay.
Okay.
To me, this is who they are.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they've woken up. Braden Point is scoring again. Kucherov had a 5-point game. I said Tampa Bay a while back I thought was the team to win that division, and I like them. I'm going to say this is who they are. Montreal.
Yes, and I hope that finally somewhere down the road here, people recognize that John Cooper deserves the Jack Adams for keeping this team at this level for as long as he has. I do think that this is where Montreal is. I think that they're now getting out of that awkward growing phase. Now there's still a lot of growing to do for them, but I look at the Montreal Canadiens, Greg's, and I say, I don't know that they're going to be the number 2 team, but they're going to stay in a playoff spot here, and we're going to get more playoff action in Montreal, where it is the best building for playoff action. Montreal is legit.
Okay, I'm still not sure because they're like a lot of teams. They can have these great runs, and maybe you're right. It's a very good point that maybe they just have the growing pains because they are still a pretty young team. And they've maybe they've grown through it to be like, okay, we don't have to be, leaky McLeakerson all the time, right? We don't always have to win flash and dash. And so I want to believe in Montreal, because I will say Montreal is who I thought they were. And I thought they'd be one of the most entertaining teams to watch all year long, because they'd score lots and they'd give up a lot. And that has happened. Yeah. But lately they're starting to show, as you said, like they look like they're maturing. So I'm still not 100% sold on them, but I do think they're a playoff team. I'll say that.
Yeah. Fair. Yep.
Detroit.
That's what I think. No, not yet, but they might be this year. As someone told me in a great line this morning, and I wish I could tell you who it was, but I can't. A great line this morning, someone I was talking to said, we were talking about the Red Wings and what they need and blah, blah, blah. And this person said to me, what you need to remember is Steve Yzerman is not Bill Guerin. Do not expect anything wild, like what Vancouver wanted from Detroit, which Bill Guerin was willing to pay. Steve Yzerman wasn't. He needs a top 6 forward and a top 4 defenseman. And I think, given what happened in the back and forth between him and Dylan Larkin last year, still resonates in the back of his mind. And that's why I'm not going to make my mind up about Detroit and say, yeah, they're legit, they're a playoff team, until I see what Yzerman does here. He knows he needs a top 6 forward. He knows, and it's probably a second line center, to be honest with you. And he knows he needs a top 4D. And until I see that emerge for the Detroit Red Wings, plus Edvinsson and Seider, they've been fantastic. But until those things emerge, I'm not going to say Detroit's there yet.
Okay. I look at the Red Wings and I think they're a playoff team because of the next team we're going to talk about and why. And I think so. Detroit is a playoff team. I don't think Detroit is a cup contender yet, but they've been top 3 now for months in their division. And I think that's, they might drop to the number 1 wild card spot. It's very possible. But now everything we say today for me is I'm assuming health for most teams, because that's the one thing you can't predict. You get 1 or 2 key injuries, it changes everything for everybody. Doesn't matter who the team is. So, but I look at Detroit and they've shown me signs. John Gibson's playing better. You mentioned they're the blue line. They got 4 guys producing offensively. So it's not like they're relying heavily on one guy. I do like Detroit. My one concern is they still make a lot of youthful mistakes on the blue line, which is normal because they're young defensemen. Yeah. And that might be like Detroit. Could they make the playoffs? Yes. Do it like, Detroit and Montreal are probably hoping they meet each other, because then one of them is going to win the series and get some great playoff experience and then go to the second round. But if they don't face each other and they got to face Tampa or Florida, I don't love their chances in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So now we go to Florida. And I'll start with Florida. They're certainly, they won today. They beat Colorado. They got 47 points in 41 games. But a lot of people probably don't know. So they are exactly at the halfway point of the season. They have played 26 home games and 15 road games. That is a massive, massive switch. So you got to play on the road now. They're going out. I think they play one more. They go out where they play the rest of the month in a different city, 13 games. They're on the road for 6, home for 1, on the road for 3, home for 1, road, home. Like, their schedule gets really hard. And I know that they're the 2-time defending champs. And I know that Keith Tkachuk's oldest son, Matthew, is coming back. But the Florida Panthers, I'm going to say this is who they are, Jeff. They're a wild card team. That's who I think they are.
Yeah, they're wild card. I don't think they're anywhere close to being like coming back on a hot roll and they're going to win the division. But I don't think that Florida cares about that. I don't really think that this is a team that's wired to care about like the hurdles that are in front of them. I really don't. I think they're comfortable just being that team that squeaks in on a wild card, and they really don't care. And then come playoff time, it's veterans, it's good goaltending, and it's a big blue line that gets it done. I don't necessarily have many concerns about the Florida Panthers. I'm with you. They're a wild card team. And I know for some teams that may have won the Stanley Cup like the Florida Panthers have in the last 2 seasons, it may sound like a pejorative to refer to them as a wild card team, but it's not, because I don't think, Griggs, that the Panthers care at all. Just get us our ticket and get out of the way. That's the Panthers.
Well, no, it's totally fair. But I will say, when you got to play 26 out of your final 41 on the road, it's going to be challenging. No question. right? They got to go out west a few times. So it's a big difference compared to some other teams in that division. Buffalo, God, I love the Sabres. Like I truly root for the Sabres. Currently out of the playoff spot. And like, I want to say that they can get in, and they won 10 in a row. And man, it would be so brutal that twice in 7 years you win 10 in a row and still miss the playoffs. But until I see it, I'm not believing it. So I'm going to say this is who they are, out of the playoffs.
You and Rupper had a great conversation on the last show about this. I really enjoyed that, and I'm with you. Well, first of all, you know what's been great? I know the winning streak came to an end against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday, but you know what's been really great in this 10-game winning streak? The amount of like old Buffalo Sabres fans that have gone away who have now come back. Right. Yeah. And there's like social media is flooded with like old videos from the Odd and the Earl of Bud and, you know, old Rick Jenneret calls and Ted Darling calls and like all these old Sabres fans that have been in hibernation. One, because they've become apathetic, and two, because they're embarrassed to admit that they're Buffalo Sabres fans. They've started to come back, and you remember too. Like you made a great reference to the Adams division on the last show. I was out shoveling snow and I had a good laugh to myself thinking about the Adams division, and the only people that don't like what the Buffalo Sabres are doing are old Adams division foes. But it's been really nice. It has, to see these old Buffalo Sabres fans come back, and you're reminded just how vibrant a hockey community is in Buffalo, both on the American side and in that Hamilton-St. Catharines corridor as well. You've heard me talk about this before, how I think it's the ideal market because it's a combination of Canadian and American fans. It's been nice, but until I see it for longer, I'm with you. Because, Jason, we've all been false started by the Buffalo Sabres. We've all seen the 10 and 9 game winning streaks that amounted to feathers. So until I see it, I ain't going to believe it. This is who they are right now, outside the playoffs.
Boston Bruins, wildly a yo-yo this year. Great stretches, bad stretches, great stretches, bad stretches. And I think that's who they are. And I think they'll hang around, and they miss the playoffs by a few points.
Yeah, I don't think they're a playoff team. I think that they're in that sort of weird phase where, not that they're coasting on fumes, but there's enough quality there that every now and then they can go on like a 3 or 4 game run, or maybe a 5 or 6 game run. And then they come back down to earth because they don't have the horses to sustain through an 82 game season where you can win consistently enough to make it to the postseason. They're good enough to remind us of how they used to be good, but they're no longer that team anymore until the next wave or the next signing or James Higgins shows up and he just pops big for the Boston Bruins. But as of right now, they're a team that every now and then reminds us how they used to be really good.
The Ottawa Senators, and their penalty kill is atrocious. And I think that this is who they are. I don't think you can turn it around that much. So Sens fans, I'm sorry, they're out.
I don't want them to be out. It's kind of like the Buffalo Sabres. I don't want the Ottawa Senators to be out. You know, interesting too. Like I look at, and I have a lot of time for Steve Staios, who's one of the more, even though he's not always the most busy by way of like, wow, there's a beehive of activity in the office and there's trades and signings and waivers and all these kinds of things. He's just a really aggressive manager, and I like that. And at the right moments, he has the green light to be as bold as he wants. I just look at Ottawa and say it's only a matter of time, and I thought that time still would have been right now. But again, to me, and I don't know what's happening with Linus Allmark. None of us do, outside of people in the organization, his closest friends and family. But to me, still one of the big issues here, and it's been for a while, is who's going to be the goaltender. Who's going to be the goaltender? Who's going to be the Jeremy Swayman? Who's going to be the Sergei Bobrovsky? Who's going to be that guy that bites down on the mouth guard and says, nope, the next goal is not going in. Let's win this thing, boys, because they haven't had it.
Yeah, no, that is totally fair. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't think this is who they are. I think the Maple Leafs will find a way to get back into the playoffs. Their best players have kind of woken up here. Austin Matthews is suddenly like, hey, I can still score in this league and I can score at will. And I think, I know they've had a lot of injuries. They got horrible news on Chris Tanev. It looks like he's probably done for the regular season. That's brutal for them. They've had a lot of injuries, but I do think that I should probably say, I'm not sure, but I don't think like it's a lock. This is who they are. I'd be stunned if they end up in the basement in the Atlantic Division. But their best players have kind of woken up here, specifically Matthews. And when that happens, the rest of your team looks better. So I still hold out hope that Toronto, just because of their talent, can get back in.
I mean, a number of things to worry about here with the Maple Leafs. And historically, Maple Leafs fans have always picked one defenseman to get on. And they get on this one defenseman, and they are relentless. Okay, and they will not let up. We saw it with Larry Murphy. We saw it with Aki Berg. We saw it with Corey Cross. We saw it with Jake Gardiner. We saw it with Brian McCabe. Like, there's always one defenseman that becomes the representative of everything that's bad. Now, the thing with McCabe was he could always get people back because of the shot. You know, they could be booing him nonstop. McCabe this, McCabe that, turnover this, turnover that. And he'd pound in 2 goals and everybody would love him again. And Morgan Rielly was -4 against the Islanders, and everybody saw him get walked by Matthew Schaefer. Like, just a spectacular goal by Schaefer, who's fighting a horrible cold too, by the way. And, even though the coaches tried to give him soft landings, even he had to admit, like, look, this was a tough one for Morgan Rielly. I wonder if this becomes the next thing in Toronto, because we've seen it with defensemen before. Fans will pick one defenseman on this team, and it will be awful. That's what I want to see happen here. I want to see if this happens again with another defenseman, and this time it's Morgan Rielly. If it does, usually that defenseman gets run out of town, and it's ugly.
Now we switch to the Metro. Carolina Hurricanes, this is who they are. They're a playoff team. They're not a cup contender.
This is a team that can make it to, as they always do, the conference final. I still think with a couple of bounces, they can make it to the Stanley Cup final. It is as I've always said about Carolina, it's an acquired taste. The way that Rod Brindamore has his team play. The one thing I do like about watching Carolina is when the puck does turn over, an incredible amount of ice appears because they play that man-to-man. You have to be really smart and really athletic to play this style. It is not for everybody. I understand that. I enjoy it. But I don't think that this is a team that wins the Stanley Cup. But in a very packed Eastern Conference, I think with a bounce or two, this team can still come out.
The New York Islanders, this is who they are. I think they're a playoff team. I know Islander fans are a little disappointed that Schaefer didn't make Team Canada. Islander fans should be doing cartwheels that the rookie is going to get that much time to recharge his batteries. Can make no mistake, every rookie I've talked to, man, the season wears on you, especially in the second half. And for him to get a 3-week break almost, that is going to be monumental. Sorokin's played great. The Islanders are a playoff.
Even Dave Riddick has played good,
Yep.
And it just seems like I'm with you. Like, I don't know that they're a playoff team. I still want to see it more from the Islanders. All I know is about the Islanders right now is there is and it sounds like I'm taking a shot at Lamoriello, and I'm not, but there's like new life when you look at things like, look at the World Juniors and all the Islanders prospects that are there. You look at some of the, you mentioned Matthew Schaefer, exciting fans on a consistent basis. Like, there's like a new breath of fresh air around the New York Islanders organization. Just like we talked about, like all these old fans coming back, old Buffalo Sabres fans. We're pretty close to saying the same thing about the Islanders. Now, Islanders fans have always been there. They haven't gone away. I will give them credit for that. I just like that the Islanders are a competitive and exciting team, dare we say it, both on the ice and behind the bench. I just don't know if they're
Philadelphia Flyers.
Still seems a year too early to me, doesn't it? Like, I expected them to be better this year. I didn't expect them to be playoff better this year. That's why I'm still going to say I don't think this is who the Philadelphia Flyers are. I think it's when, you start to see the Porter Martones start to join the mix here. And for that reason, I'll look at Philadelphia and say, like, it doesn't feel to me like this is who they are yet. It feels like right now they're a year early. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know still, right? I'm not sold they are. I'm not sold they're going to drop. I still don't know. They can fluctuate. Hey, Rick Tocchet's done an unreal job in Philly. No one can deny that. It's not like they brought in a boatload of new players, but you know what? The guys they brought in, like he's getting the most out of Trevor Zegras that we've seen from Zegras in a few years. Now Zegras has been good before, but he's back to that, and people kind of after a few years of not being that guy. And I give Rick Tocchet credit for that. Doesn't mean every player's playing great in Philly. Not every team has that, but the Flyers, for a team that had just big questions in goal and where are they going to go there, for them to have, I think they've allowed the fewest goals in the Atlantic Division, in the Metro Division so far. And that, if you would have polled anybody at the halfway point and said Philly would have the fewest goals against after 40 games in the Metro, they just said you're kidding yourself. So the Flyers have really impressed me. I'm still not sure if they can maintain it, but they're good.
One of my favorite things. One of my favorite things, quickly, favorite things to watch is when a reporter asks Tocchet about Matvei Michkov. It's still my favorite thing. He's so sick of talking about it. It's become one of my favorite things to watch, Jason. Anyhow, Pittsburgh Penguins.
Penguins, yes. I don't know. I honestly don't know. They've won 5 in a row. All right, like they are the ultimate I don't know team. And Sidney Crosby might just will them to the playoffs. Maybe.
Sure. Okay. Like, I'm with you. I don't know what to make of this team. At beginning of the season, we were all like, wow, Penguins are back. Look at this. And then they had their dip, and now they've, as you mentioned, won 5 in a row. I will point out someone in Columbus, when they made the trade with Pittsburgh for Igor Chenikov, brought up something really interesting to me. I know you like stuff like this. Igor Chenikov has one of the hardest wrist shots anybody's ever seen. And we saw it on Saturday on a breakaway, just like bullet wrist shot. So he's been clocked for his wrist shot, not his slap shot, between 91, and there was actually a stick company that tracked it too. So between 91 and 101 for his wrist shot, Jason. Is that not spectacular?
Like, at the high
if
end.
Somehow you can figure out, like, and I still sometimes you see him, he kind of does that long drag that you don't like seeing anymore. But like a couple of things. One, if you can get him a position where he knows the minute the puck's on his stick, all he needs to do is shoot, maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins have something special here. But the other thing that I thought, and maybe we'll do this on another conversation, but I just spit it out there. When it comes to the hardest shot competition, the All-Star skills, I'd love to see hardest wrist shot, not just slap shot. We don't see slap shots anymore. We see wrist shots. Give me don't you want to know, like, who has the hardest wrist shot in the NHL? I do.
Yeah. Well, you never see guys skate 8 feet into the puck and slap it. That's for sure. So, and that's what the hardest shot is, right? So, yeah. I would, like, on a side note, definitely, I would be all for it, for that. So the moving on, the Washington Capitals, to me, disappointing. Good start. They've been disappointing here. I still think they're better than what they are, but there's some signs of concern for me. I still think they're a playoff team, but I don't know.
So I still think this team is incomplete. Like, I'm with you. I think this team is incomplete. I just can't see the Washington Capitals, if this is indeed, as we all suspect, Alexander Ovechkin's last season, I can't see them being anything than aggressive at trade deadline to try to give Ovechkin a long playoff run. Like, let me throw. I was talking to someone about this on Saturday. Could you see a scenario where, if the Rangers really fall out of this thing, the New York Rangers and Washington Capitals get together on a deal for Artemi Panarin, and then Ovechkin walks away, Panarin gets a 2 to 3 year extension, and he essentially becomes the replacement on that left side for Alexander Ovechkin. Like, I think it's like that level of, like, big move that Washington is thinking about here. I can't see them saying, you know what, it's Ovechkin's last year, and we're really just going to see how it goes. I think if this is his last year, they want to send him out with as big a bang as possible. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I could probably see them doing it. I'm still not sold it's his last year, but I'm in the minority on that one. I think he might play again. So,
listen,
he might just
whole lot of new cap space on July 1st.
Oh yes, there's a lot for sure. The New Jersey Devils, to me, I would say the Devils the most, and well, this is a close one between them and the Rangers, who's the most disappointing team, but the New Jersey Devils should have been a lot better, and they're not showing it at all. Yes, they've had injuries. Lots of injuries have been a topic for lots of teams. They're not playing consistent enough at all. And I have no idea who the Devils are, honestly. I look at their roster and I think, geez, they could easily go on a run here in the second half and win the division. At the same time, I'm like, man, they continue to be inconsistent. They'll find themselves finishing 12th place in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's by the way, how do you like Jack Hughes as a winger with Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt? That was an interesting look. Timo Meier has played better lately. That line with Dawson Mercer and Arseny Gritsik has been really nice. Like, look, to me, we saw this Greg's play itself out in the conversation with Quinn Hughes. This is a team that's kind of turned themselves into a knot with no trade clauses and cap issues here. Like, it's still going to take a while until Tom Fitzgerald gets out from under the weight of a lot of the, no trades and salary cap issues that he has. Unless he's going to turn into like the most creative general manager overnight here. This is who the Devils are. This is who they are. And health is going to be the ultimate equal here. Keep Jack Hughes healthy. You got a shot. Otherwise, it's going to be tough sledding. But this is who New Jersey is. This is who they are.
The Rangers, massive disappointment. They play that game against Florida, and you look and say, geez, man, Zibanejad, 5 points. They could be better, but you know what? Maybe Adam Fox takes it personally and pulls a Michael Jordan because he didn't make Team USA and it goes on a huge run here. But, Shesterkin's played well, and they got a lot of teams to catch, right? And it's, as you get later in the year now, like, it's hard. You're only 3 or 4 points. Yeah, but you got to, like, look at Columbus. Columbus won 4 out of 5 in a week, and they didn't gain any ground. They stayed in the basement, right? And they I shouldn't say that. They gained 2 points on the last playoff spot by winning 4 out of 5 in regulation. It wasn't like they gave other Eastern teams loser points, and they still gained nothing because all it takes is 2 or 3 other teams to win 4 or 5, which is possible, and you gain nothing when you got to jump that many teams. So to me, the Rangers, this is who they are. They won't make the playoffs.
I don't disagree. One of the things that I wonder about here is a dynamic when you look at, again, like you look at the Olympic roster, and you and Rupper talked about this on the last pod. It was obvious that, Drury/Sullivan fought for Vincent Trocheck, right? And, fought for JT Miller. And if you're Adam Fox here, how do you feel? Like, did they, for Adam Fox, fight and fail? I don't know. How is that going to happen? I don't know. It's going to be a Martin St. Louis, Steve Yzerman situation here, or how this player is going to react, knowing that, 2 key pieces of his team were in positions of influence and he's not welcome back, even though he was on the Four Nations. I don't think that they're a playoff team. I think this looks like the beginning of a big transition for the squad. I mentioned Artemi Panarin a couple of seconds ago. I think that they don't make the playoffs, and dare I say, everything outside of Igor Shesterkin is on the table for this team. And at what point do you start looking at certain players, Alexis Lafreniere specifically, and say, Colby Cohen always makes this point, he's right. You are no longer the position you were drafted in. You're just this player, right? Like, you no longer say first overall pick. No, you just say Alexis Lafreniere. That's kind of who you are. You lose the first overall pick tag after a while. I think that this is going to be, if they miss the playoffs, this is going to be a season where everything outside the goaltender is on the table. That's the way it feels to me.
And the Columbus Blue Jackets, who can't hold a lead. They blew a 4-1 lead today to Pittsburgh, unfortunately. This is who they are. sadly they're a non-playoff team, and they got some guys though that they'll be able to cash in at the deadline.
Well, and that's where I wonder the three. I had Don Waddell on my show last week, and we were talking about CBJ, and actually we ended up talking about 1977 because Don Waddell played on that for the first ever IIHF sanctioned World Junior Hockey Championship, 1977 for USA. They beat Sweden, they tied Poland, and they finished in 7th place. How things have changed for USA hockey. But I asked them about, Marchment, I asked them about Boone Jenner, and I asked them about Charlie Coyle, and he said that they're in no rush to do these deals right now. They're going to put them off until the Olympic break and kind of see where they are. And I really do wonder, and I wonder about Edmonton specifically. I wonder if that's the team that whose door Edmonton comes knocking on, whether it's for Boone Jenner or whether it's for Charlie Coyle. Now, I don't think that Columbus would be just looking for picks. I think they might be looking for younger players, but that's what I've been wondering about ever since that conversation with Waddell last week. But I'm with you. Unfortunately, there's been some bright spots. I tell you what, Damon Severson's played way better this year, right? Playing with Werenski helps. Jack Greaves has played good this year. Elvis Merzlikins hasn't. But again, it's another non-playoff year for CBJ.
Let's bring in Pat Puff, and then we'll go to the West. But when we go to the West, we're going to be short and sweet. Otherwise, this will be an 8-hour.
We got to be quick.
So we'll get to Pat Puff now.
Hey guys, yeah, we'll see how fast we can go through the West on that one, but I'll keep this fast just to so we can get over to it. Buy or sell a
You're
presentation.
just going to put a buzzer on. 30 seconds.
Okay, buy or sell 20. A presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Use code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 or older. It should be easy because I had a bunch of questions about the Rangers and all these teams, but you're kind of going through that for me. Yeah. So I'm backtracking a little bit. We talked about a few injuries that have happened since the Olympics rosters announcements. Are you buying or selling on any of these being a concern come February? I mean, we've got Tom Wilson, Landeskog, Bo Horvat, Devon Toews. I'm just curious if any of these injuries have struck you in a way that you'd be concerned, Gregs.
Well, Horvat, no, they already said it, but it was interesting listening to Colorado's conversations about missed some time on Devon Toews. And, you throw it, obviously he's going to want to be there. But it's basically a month, right? From today, basically a month to decide, okay, he's going to have to play some games before you get back to playing, right? I don't think they're going to say, okay, you know what? You haven't played any games, but we'll still bring you to the Olympics. I'd be surprised if that happened. So I think these guys got to get into some games. Landeskog one didn't look good. They're talking about rib cage areas like that, sometimes it doesn't heal that quickly. So those are the two that I think, they could, unfortunately for them, they could have some ramifications for Olympics.
And the Landeskog one is not just him as a player, certainly for Team Sweden, but just for the Colorado Avalanche. It's not lost on people that, Landeskog comes back to this team full time as a captain. All of a sudden, the mood is lighter. They're playing a lot better. Nathan MacKinnon, not that he ran the room too hot. Skog wasn't there, but there's a different vibe. There's a different vibe around Colorado with Landeskog as the captain. Nathan MacKinnon is super intense, and that's important and great to have if you have Stanley Cup aspirations. I think we all have the immense amount of respect for Nathan MacKinnon, but with Landeskog there as the captain, everything falls into play. Look how everything has fallen into place, and it's been told this is not a coincidence. Landeskog is back as the captain, and everyone feels comfortable in their own skin. The other thing it reminds me of, the rosters that were announced last week are not the rosters we're going to see in Italy. I know we all get bent out of shape about snubs this and snubs that. Let's see who goes. Let's see who ends up going.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to follow for the next month, 100%. The next one I have for you, taking a look back at the Calder. I mean, this one I'm not so sure about, but again, you stole some of my topics already. So we're going to jump over to Demidov here. I mean, we've been talking all season that it's, Matthew Schaefer's to lose, but I mean, Demidov's putting up some significant numbers right now. So I'm just curious, are you buying or selling on him making this a bit of a race by the end of the season? And if not, what would he have to do to make it a conversation? We'll start with you, Jeff.
Oh, boy. I don't know that there's anything. I mean, look, if he scores 40 goals, if he goes on the ultimate heater here. But first of all, as we all know, it's harder to break in as a defenseman than it is as a forward. History tells us that. Players will tell you that. But the way that Matthew Schaefer has completely, I won't say single-handedly, but the way that Matthew Schaefer has allowed the New York Islanders to play and has them in a playoff position right now where a lot of people had sort of written them off in a position that is the hardest to break into. Like, look, I know goalies all have to spend time in the American Hockey League. Generally, defensemen do too. You just don't jump in, and specifically coming off only playing a handful of games last year too, to play the way that he is playing, transform the New York Islanders the way that he's transformed and made people fall in love with hockey, with the New York Islanders all over again. It's Pat. Personally, as long as he stays healthy, I can't see this thing being pulled away from Matthew Schaefer. I love Demidov, like intense skill. Like, of course, doesn't love Demidov, but man, what Matthew Schaefer's doing here is becoming legendary.
Yeah, to me, I don't think it's really close. Sorry, Habs fans, but Schaefer's going to become only the third, fourth defenseman ever to score 20 goals. Might set the all-time record. He's playing almost 24 minutes a night. I don't.
Yeah,
Demidov would have to go all world, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Schaefer has 12 goals, and Demidov, not that 10 is bad, but I mean, there's something to be said about that too. I mean, with most of his points coming as assists, but just to keep this quick, my third one for you, you've been going through each standings, and the one that stands out the most to me right now is the Metro. I mean, Carolina has been slipping, and just taking a look at the odds on Bet365 here, I mean, there's some juice as far as the Washington Capitals go, the Devils go, if they can stay healthy. But Carolina has lost Kochetkov, apparently. So I guess my question is, are you buying or selling on Carolina winning this division halfway through? I mean, it's a lot closer than we were expecting it to be.
Oh, God, yeah. I still think Carolina, like, I'd probably take, but I just say, looking at those odds, the Pittsburgh Penguins are 2 points out, and I get plus that much.
Yeah,
like the smart bet would be the Penguins right now, plus 3,500. Kidding me?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. If I'm like, I'm with you. Like, I think Carolina wins this thing still. I think it'll be closer than a lot of people suspected at perhaps the beginning of the season. But if I'm going to swing for the fence here, I don't even think you need to swing hard. Penguins are smart here, isn't it? Like this, I'm not missing anything, right? Like this is real, and we've seen them. They're on one right now. But again, we can see them turn around and throw 7 in the ditch tomorrow. That's the only thing about Penguins.
Yeah, that's true. I just looking at this, there's 3 or 4 teams that I wouldn't mind putting, a small unit on just out of why not? Because at plus 450 for the Capitals, plus 750 for the Devils, plus 3,500 for the Penguins, just for the podcast listeners, like that's crazy numbers. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting going down the stretch for the Hurricanes in the Metro, but just to keep it sweet, that's all I got for you guys. Buy or sell, Brian, Bet365.
Awesome, Patty. Okay, so now we're going to get to the West, and we'll start with Colorado. This is who they are. Yeah. Dallas. This is who they are. They're a playoff team for me, not even a discussion.
Yep, easy. Dallas, one of the elite teams. It's another go for a year for Dallas. They will still make a move. Jim Nill will not sit on it. His team will improve.
Minnesota Wild, same thing. They are a lock playoff team. But big swinging Billy, you never know. I wouldn't be shocked if there's another move. But they're in the playoffs, and it's really going to come down to, do they get home ice advantage in round 1 against Dallas?
Yep. This is one of the elite teams in the NHL. Bill Guerin has been the most entertaining general manager to follow. He has signed the biggest contract. He has made the biggest trade. Is he done? I'm with you, Griggs. I don't think that Bill Guerin folds his notebook and, we're done here. Let's see, and let's ride this thing all the way. I think Bill Guerin still has at least one more medium-sized move up his sleeve here before we're done.
The Nashville Predators, suddenly 7-3 in their last 10. They're 1 point out of a playoff spot. I don't know. I have no idea who the because there's so much middle ground in the Western Conference right now. Nashville, I have no idea.
I don't think they have the strength down the center. I don't think they have the strength down down the middle to win this thing. I think that this is fun watching Nashville and the little rip that they're on right now, but I don't see Nashville making it. Nope.
St. Louis Blues, like their goaltending can't possibly be as bad as it was in the first half, and yet suddenly they're 1 point out of the playoffs. So I'm going to say the Blues actually can improve because it's almost mathematically impossible for their goaltending to continue to be this bad.
It has not gone great for Binnington and Hofer. I agree. It hasn't been the best of all possible seasons for Robert Thomas either. I still look at this blue line and say like that's where I know we've spent a lot of time talking about the net mining. I know it's been bad. To me, the back end is just as big an issue for Doug Armstrong, soon to be Alexander Steen here. And a lot of games I watched, like we talked about last week, they just look tired. It's a team that just looks exhausted. Yeah, like somehow they're still in the mix.
They're minus 39 in goal forward differential. It's like brutal. Why?
It's brutal.
But they're still in the race. That's what's crazy. When they lose, they just lose bad, is what that really amounts to. The Utah Mammoth, I think this is who they are. They're close. The Logan Cooley injury really hurts them.
Yeah, that one kills them. There are some teams where they have enough to insulate the big injury. Utah aren't at a stage in their development or their growth where they can sustain an injury like Logan Cooley. They're not a playoff team right now.
Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, I think Chicago internally, they're tickled pink. They got a lot of improvement from their young players, right? They're not a playoff team. This is who they are. But I think that they're excited because they're going to stay. They'll slowly, I think, fall out of the race. But right now, they could wake up and say, guys, we're 4 points out. Like that's some juice for some young players. So I think they got to be excited, but this is who they are. They're
non-playoff team. And I think Kyle Davidson knows that. And I don't think he's in a position right now to look at this team and say, I'm going to do anything and mortgage any part of the future here for a little bit of bump at trade deadline time. This is who they are, not a playoff team. But to your point, I think as an organization, they should be really happy with how they've improved this year.
And I wouldn't trade away too many of my UFAs for nothing. If they're good guys in the room and you can get them on a decent price point, like sometimes teams, the biggest mistake you make is, we're going to get a third or a second rounder. What the hell is that? That's not gonna, well, how's that helping you for the next near future with Bedard and them? So I do think at some point there has to be hey, let's try to keep some of the guys that we like rather than just let them walk. And they got tons of cap space. If they want to overpay on short-term deals, they could.
Yeah. I want to talk about that when we get to San Jose. Let's park a couple of 30 seconds or so to talk about that.
Winnipeg Jets, biggest disappointment in the NHL. I'm flabbergasted they're here. They've shown no signs. They've won one of their last 10 games. It's not going in the right direction. Sadly, Jets fans, I think they missed the playoffs.
The person to watch here is Scott Arniel. You know, when you start to hear, Scott Arniel talking about, games being unacceptable and players aren't motivated and, oh boy, I know that it's not Winnipeg. It's not the Winnipeg style to make a move like this when the players really are at fault more than anybody else. But I just don't know how long Winnipeg can continue to play like this without there being significant questions around Scott Arniel.
All right. Heard it here first. Now we go to the Pacific Division, which has been very much a turtle race amongst turtle races, but is the leading turtle race. The Edmonton Oilers are atop the division despite giving up way too many goals. They've been up and down. It looked like they were kind of okay. They found their stride in December, and then they come out of Christmas break and they're bad again. So, but I do think this is who the Oilers are. They're a playoff team in the Pacific, no question.
Their playoff team, Stan Bowman, is still not done. He still has to bring more Americans on board, which seems to be the MO. I say that tongue in cheek. They'll improve at the deadline. Stan Bowman is still not done here. I mentioned, wondering about Boone Jenner or Charlie Coyle. Oilers aren't done, but yeah, they're a playoff team.
Vegas Golden Knights, I do believe, are a playoff team. I also think this is who they are. I think they really miss Pietrangelo and Haig on the back end, and it's going to be very difficult to replace them.
Pietrangelo is kind of the new age Chris Pronger in one sense. Whenever he leaves a team, it takes a major step backwards, right? You saw that all through Chris Pronger's career, and we saw it with St. Louis with Pietrangelo, and we're seeing it with Vegas as well. He is like one of the only players you look at and say impossible to replace, and we're seeing it play itself out.
To Anaheim, this is who I thought they'd be. This is who they are. They're going to scratch and claw and battle. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs, but they'll be in the hunt.
This was the year that Pat Verbeek had to do something, that there had to be some results. He's been in the chair for long enough. This is where the Samueli family says, okay, we want to see a return on investments. And so far, they're getting a return on investment. They are where we thought. I still say wild card if they get in, but Pat Verbeek is giving ownership an ROI here.
Seattle Kraken, very quietly, Philip Grubauer has played, like Joey Decor's played good, but Philip Grubauer has been unreal for Seattle. I'll be honest, I'm shocked. I thought Seattle, I stomped on their grave a few weeks ago. I thought they were done. And they've basically flipped me the bird because they've looked really competitive here the last bit. But I'm not sold on Seattle. I still don't think they're playoffs.
Gotta score. Right? Like there's a couple of teams in the Pacific here that just have to find goals. Like it's them and the team we're going to talk about next, where if you have to grind for every single goal, it is exhausting physically. It is exhausting mentally as well. And that's where Seattle, unfortunately, finds itself right now, despite the best efforts of Jacob Melanson.
The LA Kings are an older team.
Yes.
That looks slow.
Yep.
And struggles to score. And I'm not sure how it's going to improve. They're going to be in a dogfight for playoffs.
The only way right now, considering how players are all locked up and a lot of teams are going to have cap space, you can improve. You just have to be a bold general manager. Like you have to have some Bill Guerin in you. Like, don't you feel that way? Like, I know that it's not necessarily Ken Holland's MO. He's cautious. He's thoughtful, but the way you improve in the NHL right now, if you're a top team, you got to be bold and you got to take big swings. And if the Los Angeles Kings are going to improve, it's got to be big swings, either a trade deadline or in the offseason on July 1st, because you're not signing anybody. You're not drafting anybody. It's going to be big swings if you want to improve. And this is who the Kings are. And they can't score.
Yeah. The San Jose Sharks continue to battle. I think they're like Chicago, man. I think they're super excited of where they're at. Macklin Celebrini at the midway point of the season would probably be the Hart Trophy leader, just because by wording of the rule, most valuable to his team.
Yes.
You add the second and third scorers on his team together, and they don't have as many points as him. Like, McKinnon's had a great year. McDavid's had a great year, but value to their team. Yeah. It's not close. To me, it's Celebrini. No. I think this is who the Sharks are. They're surprised. They'll compete, but ultimately, I think they'll come up short.
I don't disagree with that, but the one thing, and much like Chicago, they'll be thrilled at the huge step that the San Jose Sharks have taken so far this season. There was a signal today to the entire marketplace with the signing of Alexander Venberg. And some people looked at this and said, "Ooh, that's a lot of money for Alexander Venberg here. Like that's a pretty juicy tomato." To me, that was a signal. That's a signal that, much like we talked about with the Chicago Blackhawks, we're not interested in picks. Like they're out of the accumulating picks. We have our pipeline. We have our players. Like these are the guys we're going with. Now we're trying to lock in other players here that we need for this ride for these young minnows that we have in this organization. I'm not sure how you looked at the Venberg. I mean, $6 million times 3 years, the AAV, but I'm not sure how you looked at it, but I looked at it and said, this is Mike Greer saying, don't come to me with picks. We're not interested in picks anymore. We've got kids. We don't need picks. We're good. Now we want to cement some players. That's how I saw that signing today.
I'm going to be fascinated what he does on his back end, because Leddy, Klingberg, Ferraro, Liljegren, Desharnais are all UFAs pending. Now, some of those guys you can move on from, no big deal. But if there's any there, they're like, hey, we want to keep them, then you sign them. You don't trade them away for a second or third round pick. That to me does very little for your organization right now or in the future. So I would keep Calgary Flames, 7th in the Pacific, 40 points. This is who I thought the Flames would be. And honestly, I think Calgary's a team that needs a top 3 pick, and they're going to scratch and claw. They'll compete. Everything's great, but maybe by the end of the year, once they trade Rasmus Andersson, they will slide down and lock themselves in with 3 best odds to get a top 3 pick.
Does it feel to you, and maybe I'm just making this up in my own head, but if you're the Calgary Flames, you want everything to coincide with the opening of the new building? Like, I think that the Detroit Red Wings are sort of a cautionary tale, right? Like, not the, plan to be bad for a long time, but I get it. But like, we haven't seen a playoff game, right, at Little Caesars yet. Like, that's a nightmare. That can't happen with the Calgary Flames. If you're the Calgary Flames, aren't you sort of obsessed with making everything hit a crescendo when the building is open. And if that involves being bad for a couple of years, so be it. Not that this is necessarily the year you're going to get a franchise player, but over the next couple of years, yeah, maybe. That's kind of how I look at the Calgary Flames. Yes. Everything's about 100%. Being good when the new building opens, period.
Well, even then, you know what? Just have hope when the new building opens, because people will come because they want to see the new rink. They want to sit in the new rink. And if you're in it still for year 2 or 3 of a rebuild, that's the best time to be there. Because all the bells and whistles will excite the fans, and they'll be like, yeah, but look, we got this number 1 or number 2 or number 3 pick, and now he's his first or second year in the league. That definitely can help them out. And leads us to our last team, the Vancouver Canucks. This is who they are. This is where they should stay. It's a bad year. It's a reset year. Don't blow your brains out in the second half to finish 12th or 13th in the Pacific. Just stay at the bottom. You got a few veterans that you probably aren't going to bring back. They're a team that needs some youth and needs a top pick. So they are the opposite. They do need picks, and ideally, maybe you can get another first rounder. This is who they are. This is where they should stay.
Don't disagree. I just wonder, because we've seen some ownership groups before make a commitment to some type of rebuild. I know it was awkward watching Patrick Ollivine on Prime a couple of weeks ago try to describe what kind of rebuild this was going to be. Sometimes owners will go along with it for a little while and then change course. I'll be curious to see how in sync ownership is with hockey operations around what's next for the Vancouver Canucks. But I don't disagree. This is a team and has pieces to get, younger pieces and draft picks. But this is a team that needs some remodeling here. That needs a significant renovation.
There we go. We'll save this one and see how close or right or wrong we were when the playoffs begin in a few months. But we're officially at the halfway point of the season, and man, there's a lot more question marks, which is good. Like, there's a lot of fan bases like, man, I think my team's in it. I'm not really sure if my team's in it. I don't know what they are, and that makes it exciting. So it should be a wild and wacky second half of the season with a 3-week break smack dab in the middle of it. Should be fun. Jeff, have yourself an awesome week, and we will chat with you next week on the Rundown. That's the Rundown, brought to you by Bet365. Thanks for listening and watching.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.